There's a certain kind of character that doesn't need to shout to be terrifying. He doesn't announce his arrival. He doesn't scream the name of his attack. He doesn't waste time trying to convince everyone that he's powerful. He simply walks into the scene. And somehow the atmosphere changes. Those are always my favorite characters to read, because they don't demand your attention. They earn it. Today, I'm inking one of those characters. His name is Kyro. He's not the protagonist of my manga. He's not the main villain either. In fact, compared to the rest of the cast, he barely appears. But every single time he steps onto a page, it feels like something is about to happen. Not because he's loud, but because he's completely calm. That's the kind of presence I wanted him to have from the very beginning. A character whose silence speaks louder than anyone else's words. As I ink this page, I want to show you how I tried to capture that feeling through the artwork, not just with his design, but with every single line. One thing I love about creating manga is that every character teaches you something different. Some characters are all about movement, some are about explosive emotions, others rely on exaggerated expressions to sell the moment. Kyro is the complete opposite. He's built on restraint. His design isn't overloaded with accessories. His expressions aren't exaggerated. Even his posture tells you that he has absolutely nothing to prove. That was intentional. When I first started designing him, I kept asking myself one question. What does confidence actually look like? Not fake confidence, not arrogance, real confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that never feels rushed. The answer I kept coming back to was simplicity. A character who's completely certain of himself doesn't need dramatic poses. He doesn't need to clench his fists. He doesn't need to look angry every time he's on screen. He simply exists. And everyone around him feels the difference. That's exactly who Kyro is. He's the kind of character who quietly reminds everyone what the true ceiling of power looks like. The protagonist is still climbing. The rivals are still chasing greatness. The villains are still trying to dominate the world. Kyro isn't chasing anything. He's already standing where everyone else hopes to reach. That's why I enjoy drawing him so much. Every panel becomes an exercise in doing less. Less movement, less emotion, less noise. Because sometimes, the quietest character is the one people remember the most. Every memorable character has something that defines them. Sometimes it's a weapon. Sometimes it's a transformation. Sometimes it's a technique that everyone in the story fears. For Kyro, it's just a sentence. 3 simple words. Drop your Shinnen. That's all he says. No long speech, no threats, no anger, no explanation. Just those words. And somehow, that's enough. The first time I imagined that scene, I didn't want it to feel like another powerful attack. I wanted it to feel unnatural, like the rules of the world had suddenly changed. In this story, Shinnen is more than power. It's the source of a person's conviction. It's the reason they keep standing after taking impossible damage. It's the voice inside them that refuses to surrender. Every battle in this world revolves around protecting that conviction. Characters push past their limits because of it. They overcome fear because of it. They survive because of it. Then Kyro arrives, and with one sentence, he tells it to disappear. That's what makes him terrifying. He isn't overpowering his opponents. He isn't defeating them through skill alone. He's removing the very thing that allows them to fight. Imagine spending years mastering your abilities, training every single day, winning impossible battles, believing your determination can overcome anything. Then someone looks at you, without raising their voice, without changing their expression, and calmly says, "Drop your Shinnen." Before you even understand what happened, your conviction disappears, your strength fades, your confidence collapses, not because you chose to surrender, but because your very will has been silenced. That's the feeling I wanted readers to experience. Not excitement, not adrenaline. Silence. The kind of silence that makes you stop reading for a second, just to process what you witnessed. When I draw Kyro, I never picture him as someone trying to prove he's the strongest. He already knows who he is. That certainty is far more frightening than rage could ever be. Power can be challenged, confidence can be shaken, but absolute certainty, that's something far more difficult to stand against. And that's the emotion I want every panel featuring Kyro to communicate before he even speaks. Now we move to the panel that really sells Kyro's ability. Because a character is not only defined by what they do, they're also defined by how everyone else reacts to them. Kyro himself is calm, almost too calm. So the responsibility of showing the true weight of his power falls onto the opponent. This is where the contrast becomes important. Kyro's side of the page should feel controlled, clean, almost quiet, but the opponent's side should feel completely different. This is the moment where everything they believed in starts falling apart. Before this moment, they probably believed they could win. They probably believed their training mattered, their experience, their determination, everything that made them confident. Then Kyro speaks, and suddenly, all of that certainty disappears. When I draw a reaction like this, I don't want it to feel like simple fear. Fear is something everyone understands. I want it to feel deeper than that. It's confusion. It's disbelief. It's the moment when someone realizes they are facing something they don't understand. The expression has to tell the story before the dialogue does. The eyes widen slightly. The face loses its confidence. The posture changes. Small details like these are what make a reaction believable. I'm also changing the way I approach the line work here. Unlike Kyro, the opponent doesn't have control anymore, so the lines can become heavier, more chaotic, more aggressive. The shadows become stronger. The contrast between the two characters is what creates the impact. One character is completely still, the other is falling apart. That's the image that stays in the reader's mind. A lot of people think a cold character is someone who is just emotionless. But I think there's more to it than that. A truly cold character is someone who creates a reaction without needing to force one. They don't have to explain themselves. They don't need to announce how dangerous they are. The people around them already understand. That's why characters like Kyro are interesting to create. Their power isn't only about what they can do. It's about what their existence does to everyone else. When Kyro enters a scene, the question isn't, can he win? Everyone already knows he probably can. The real question becomes, what happens when someone realizes they can't even challenge him? That changes the entire feeling of a fight. Most battles are about two people trying to prove something, two wills colliding, two characters refusing to give up. But Kyro creates a completely different type of conflict. He challenges the meaning of resistance itself, and that's what makes him different. When I step back and look at this page, that's the feeling I'm searching for. Not just a cool character, not just a powerful ability. A character who changes the atmosphere of the story whenever he appears. Someone readers remember even after the chapter ends. Because sometimes the characters with the fewest words are the ones who leave the biggest impression. And Kyro is built around that idea. Quiet, controlled, unavoidable. It's time to let the drawing speak for itself. From here, I'll be focusing on the details. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the process.